get some analysis on all of this now with Mahjoob Zweir in Doha, where he's the director of the Gulf Studies Center at Qatar University. Thanks so much for joining us on this news hour. Mahjoob, we're just getting reports now from Israeli media that Blinken has told Netanyahu that the U.S. opposes military operation in Rafah. He's urging Israel to do more to allow aid into Gaza. But, of course, we've seen similar sentiments from the United States in the past. How do you think this is going to go down with Netanyahu?
I'm not sure the Americans are serious enough to change the mind and the plans that Netanyahu wants to basically have in Gaza, because the United States is sending confusing messages, sometimes supporting, sometimes criticism, and I'm sure Netanyahu is benefiting from all of that. What we are seeing now, three main elements, three main facts. Number one, there is lack of a humanitarian support. There is a serious humanitarian crisis in Gaza. We are moving toward a real famine, and that is something no one wants to accept that as a reality. And more importantly, there is another action will come to Rafah without any kind of efforts to stop it from the United States and the other countries. I think with all of that, it's obvious that the Israeli government is insisting on attacking Rafah. Of course, that may be part of it is to pressure Hamas to accept the deal. But even though the kind of attacks they are doing now, they are actually behaving now in Gaza, are very aggressive and killing a lot of people, as we saw in the reports.
Mahjoob, do you think that this will put pressure on Hamas to accept the deal? They have said that they are still studying it. Israel's given them until the end of Wednesday, but because of this impending ground offensive in Rafah, could this possibly sway Hamas to say, yes, we accept this deal, even if it's not a permanent one?
Now, since November, we have many deals on the table, and Israeli have put a severe pressure and the United States on Hamas. None of this has succeeded so far, and I think that tells us that the Israelis and the Americans are misreading the situation. Hamas, I assume they will not accept with any deal, not considering the withdrawal from Gaza, because that is the minimum. They can come back to their base and say, look, we have achieved that. With all of this destruction in Gaza, I'm not sure they will accept Israelis to stay in Gaza. So that is, if you look at the narrative from both sides, it's obvious each one of them wants the maximum, considering the realities on the ground. And I think Hamas is insisting on that, as well as Netanyahu insisting on his condition to remain in Gaza. And I think everyone now looks at who can achieve something on the ground that basically pressure the other side to give more concession. It's a very very complicated scene, unfortunately.
Very complicated, but almost like a tug of war here. And the people affected the most are, of course, the people in Gaza. People dying every day because of those Israeli airstrikes. And that, of course, has caught the attention of the world. We're seeing this student movement starting in the United States. It has spread to other countries. Do you think that this impacts how those governments deal with this crisis in Gaza?
If you look at the situation from a broader view, what happened is actually benefiting the Palestinian cause. The Palestinian cause were forgotten since 2010. What happened now in Gaza is bringing back Palestinian issue to the table globally. But if we look at the detail in Gaza, absolutely, it's very sad to see all of this. Having said that, I think it's important to remind the viewers that any liberation process in any country across the globe, across the history, there will be such scenarios. I think what's missing in all of this is actually the willingness of international community to do something, to pressure Israelis on what they are doing, to criticize them, because Israelis now have not been criticized for what they are doing. they are still following the same narrative that they are a victim, which the reality is not. They are no longer a victim. Actually, they are killing the civilians in Gaza. So international community is failing, international law is failing, and more importantly, the common sense globally is failing. I mean, looking at this number of women and children killed, and this not enough to criticize Israel, that's a huge humanitarian crisis on the morals in the 21st century.
Yes, and as that death toll in Gaza fast approaching 40,000 people in 7 months, one does have to wonder how many people have to die before this war ends. And when you talk about the pressure on Israel, let's face it, it's the United States that has the most leverage here. Many then asking, why doesn't the U.S. use its leverage in the situation? They can easily say, we cut off aid to you, Israel being the biggest recipient of aid from the United States, and they can cut off weapon supply. So why doesn't Washington do that? Or is this just quite a lot more when it comes to a nuanced situation?
I think this has to deal how the American administration perceive the Palestinian and the Arabs. And that is very sad to say. They don't perceive them as should be. I think they are, in a way, happy of what's happening because they still basically repeating the slogan and the narrative of the Israelis. They want to wipe Hamas off the map. And they know that is not impossible, and this will never happen. But even though they are not doing enough, at least to look at the casualties, to the killed people in Gaza. I think that is a problem within the moral system in the United States. I think, looking at the history of the United States, war in Vietnam, war in Iraq, war in Afghanistan, have changed the attitude of the United States to become less focused on the morals, on the principles, and look more importantly to the interest. And that is what explains to us what they are doing now towards Israel.
Mahjoob Zweir, really good to speak to you and get your analysis live to us there from Doha.
Much.
Thanks for your time.